Yeah, the 80s was the last decade really where it was just before, I mean, don't quote me or it's not exact, but just before groove and dance and urban music came in big, and I was there at the beginning of the 90s, when there were, I think there were 85 bands on Virgin that got, killed off in one night. Whether you were in the middle of an album or like us, just delivered an album, because Branson saw what was happening. It was for in Britain anyway, Soul to Soul and Nana Cherry and these great new young, colourful, urban. I've learned that from America, but dance music, and us with our big guitars and our big hair, we were slightly ridiculous. So, the times they were changing. They really were.
Welcome, everybody, to Casting for Two, the podcast, as always, hosted by me, Chris. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 385. Today, wonderful guest, great guest, but also, with the release of this episode, that means that 6 years of Casting for Two has already been put in the books. And, as per tradition, I don't know if some of you know, but July usually marks the birthday of the podcast. So July will mean year 7 of the podcast. I don't go by seasons because I always do this, so I go by years. So yeah, beginning of July means 7 years, year 7, and I'm excited for it. But, enough of that. I'll talk more about that later in the later episodes. My guest today is a wonderful man, very pleasant to talk to, just a wealth of knowledge, and I'm so thankful to have chat with him. Nick Van Eede is on the show, and he's from a band called Cutting Crew. If you don't know who they are, do your music history, but he's in the band that he wrote Died in Your Arms Tonight, and they have a new album out that is a lot of orchestral remixes of their of their songs, and I recommend checking it out because it's phenomenal. It's out right now. But wonderful chat, and I'm done talking. We need to get in this episode, all right? So, Nick, take it away. As a person who, my real name's Christopher, but I go by Chris. Do you ever feel like in a point in your life, you're like, you know what, I'm done being Nick. I'm a Nicholas now.
Nicholas was always I bet you got the same story, mate. Was always my mum angry.
Yes.
Nicholas, back here now.
Yeah.
I think when I get my sainthood, maybe I'll go back to I'll go to Nicholas, but that could be a long way off.
Right. I've just always wondered, also, I remember I was working with a guy who his name was Joseph, but he hated to be called Joey. Don't even think about calling him Joey or else he was going to cry.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I often make the awful mistake of, when you become, semi-familiar with a lady that you've, worked with 2 or 3 days, and then let's say her name is, I don't know, Christine, and then you make the horrible mistake of saying Chrissy or something, and she's like, don't ever call me that again.
Oh, yeah, I just love the fact that there's so much baggage behind that. You don't know. but obviously, there's wounds there, but whatever. Yeah.
We don't want to go there.
No.
Where are you? Where are you talking to me from?
I am located in San Antonio, Texas.
Texas, wow, great, fantastic.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm from Oregon. I'm a Pacific Northwesterner.
You're north, yeah, much more. So you're I suppose, well, I don't know, that's totally different, isn't it? Totally different in every way. That's what's so amazing about America. I mean, if you come to Britain, which I'm sure you've done, okay, Scotland is very different from England, and the Welsh are a bit strange and all that, but you've got like, maritime East Coast and San Antonio, and they're worlds apart, aren't they?
Oh my gosh, it really is. Even though, again, you said we're in the same continent, yeah, it's like night and day. And don't even, I've visited my friends on the East Coast, and yeah, that's even more of a oi. Not a bad oi, but it's just, why is everybody angry and rushing me? And it's like, that's the East Coast. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
Understood. Well, it's great speaking with you. Yeah, we're obviously in the backdrop of this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely brutal stuff going on. I'm completely surrounded by it. I mean, I'm lucky.
Yeah.
I've got a lovely old farmhouse with a big garden, and I'm privileged to be able to go out there and mow my lawns and look after my father-in-law. But 3 of the neighbors have the virus or have had the virus, and we're dropping off food parcels, and it's wonderful. They're old people, so they come walking up the drive like the living dead, and you're like, no,
don't bite me.
Exactly.
Wow.
I know it's flippant to make fun, but yeah, it's pretty shocking. And I want to say to everybody over there in the States and anybody that's listening, please be sensible, because that's the only way we're going to make it through. We have to be sensible.
I absolutely be sensible, be courteous. I mean, I don't know how it is around you as far as the people are. Around here, it seems like for the past couple of years, a lot of people have just been very me oriented. So hopefully this becomes a time when, okay, I should wear this mask so I don't get other people sick, or I don't get, stuff like that. So
well said, Chris. Well said. And also, I bet, we don't sit in the pub talking anymore, but one of the things that's come up a lot with my friends is that, and I don't even mean this politically, because let's not go there, but if at the end of it all, it just tilts slightly on its axis, whereby the people that are mostly forgotten and have been saving our lives get a little bit more rewarded, and the people at the other end who, as I call it, wouldn't even miss it tax, just chip in a bit more, then even if we just achieve that, it would be a better place, wouldn't it?
It would. It absolutely would. Yeah. There. I remember when I have a bunch of friends who live in Canada, and they would, show me these videos of around 7 p.m. Everybody in the city would cheer for the first responders and stuff. And I was really touched. I was like, that's something that that needs to be over here. And then, a couple weeks later, it was adopted around here. And it's, I have family that has been in the medical profession, and it's important.
That's great.
To take care. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. I mean, I know things won't. Well, actually, things will never go back to normal. I'm sure there will be some things that will be cluttering up again. The stocks and shares, they'll all recover probably. But if our hearts and I don't want to get too hokey here, but if our hearts and minds get a little cleaner, a little clearer, and we become more not global as in globalism, but we just become more global. I think it's fascinating that, my Slovenian friend phones me up and says, how's it going over there? And then I call my friend in Tokyo, not just to say, hey, you want to buy a record? It's just about how
Yeah, no, we're all in this together realistically. So
Anyway, shoot, your interview. Go for it,
Yeah,
man.
well, I mean, it's already started. We're already in it. But one
Yeah.
of the things I like asking, individuals during this time, do you feel like, since you are at home more, do you feel like your creativity has, taken off? Where you're just like, oh, I want to do this. I want to create or write this song or have this remixed, anything like that?
I mean, I could make a sexy answer and say I've just written an album, but no, I haven't. We've just finished one. It was very hard. It was a long process. So I'm enjoying not doing music, but
Okay.
without any BS at all. All my life, that dreaded thing, he's going to write a book. Well, I didn't want to write a book about my silly stories. I'll entertain people down the pub with that. I've got a little thriller novel that I want to write. And it's pretty dark. It's pretty gruesome. And I started it a couple of weeks ago, and I go down to my studio where I ought to be writing songs, and I'm good. I'm really enjoying it. That's all I'm going to say. I'm really enjoying it.
Nice. Well, I mean, at least there's some writing getting done in the studio,
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of lyrics, though. I mean, if we could do a video link now, I could show you my wallpaper, my famous wallpaper. It's like 25 feet long around. It's like, it's not on my wall. It's a separate piece, but it's all the lyrics and all the titles. And it's probably now 22 years old.
Wow.
And you'll see on there lines from Die in Your Arms. You'll see on there lines from yesterday's song. So I've been adding to the wallpaper.
There we go. Now, this leads me perfectly into another question I love asking. As somebody who's been making music, writing music for a long, long time, do you ever look back at your previous work and just either think, oh, man, I miss that person, or I don't know what the hell that person was talking about?
If you're talking about everything I've ever done.
Yes. I'm going everything.
That's great. Well, when I first started, I got, the beauty of the music business, like no other business, not the theater business, not the sports business, really. I mean, the music business is somebody can turn up and spot you, and the next day your life is changed. And that still happens, and it happened to me. And it was a long process, but Chaz Chandler, who was the manager, Jimi Hendrix manager, and at that time he was managing Slade, who are an enormous pop group over here. He came into a pub and spotted me playing bad songs on my bad acoustic guitar. But 5 days later, I was in Poland supporting Slade, who were then, after Deep Purple, the loudest band in the world. Anyway, point being that I look back on those days and I can see that I was, something being chiseled, wasn't really what I ever intended to be.
Yeah.
But I would go on stage and sing these ridiculous sort of, acoustic guitar love ballads. And there is a good story in there, Chris. So in Poland, it would be like, oh, English boy, sing beautiful music and roses, throw roses on the stage. And I'd go. So at the end of the tour, Noddy Holder from Slade said, "Oh, Nick, do you want to come and do the British tour with us? It's easy. We're all friends now. Would you come and join us?" That's a Wolverhampton accent, by the way. I said, well, of course, I'm going down a storm. This is easy stuff. Of course, in Britain, Slade's following were skinheads. I mean, proper, true skinheads. I died. I had a bottle in the head. I was gobbed on every night. So that's when I look back and think, okay, that's an era that it's almost surreal, but it was the rite of passage, if that's not too posh a word.
Yeah. Okay. And when, you said something that intrigued me, when you said you were being chiseled into, performer and all that. What was the point when you were just like, look, it could be after, your story, but when is the point when you're like, look, I got to do things my own way. I want to write the songs that I want to, like that whole, like, I want to be me, the type of artist that I want to be.
Yeah. Well, immediately after that, we formed the Drivers, and that was the best fun in my life. That was a 3-piece 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything played. Skinny. I mean, we were so skinny. It was every night. It was 300 people in a British pub. And there was girls. It was rock and roll. It was beer being poured over each other's heads because you couldn't move. The best, much more fun than Cutting Crew, always. And that's when I cut my teeth on being able to write melodies, and we didn't do any covers. We did all our own songs. But it's weird. It sounds a bit pompous to say it, but even looking back on that, I can see that was great fun. But something happened. I met Kevin McMichael in Nova Scotia, and he came and moved to England. He turned up at Gatwick Airport with his guitar and a hodl over his shoulder. And I said, "Can I get your suitcase?" And he said, "This is me." And that summed him up. There was no suitcase. And that was the day I think it all clicked. And I hope that many people you've interviewed in the past, whether it be music or not, sometimes you have to wait until you're 27 years old and, you've married and all that kind of stuff. But you're the person in your life that changes your life. That was Kevin.
Okay. It's always funny when, I don't want to say you find your niche, but you find your calling. And, a lot of us are groomed to think that, oh yeah, that's going to happen when you're 18 or when you're 20. It's like, well, no, you can find it when you're 30 or 40 or 50. It just kind of, it happens when it happens. You just need to listen to the universe when it does.
Totally. And I wouldn't have been as prepared, even though I was totally ill prepared for Cutting Crew because it went so big so quickly. Mm-hmm. But, at least you can walk onto the stage in Oregon.
Yes.
In front of 2,500 people and not be a frightened rabbit, because all that my band had been doing since we were 17 was playing gigs. So, we were a good live band. We could cut it live. But it took, so at 18 years old, but then again at 18, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
You don't know anything and you're foolish and it's wonderful. The whole punk thing, I lived through that. I watched it and just was amazed. I used to go up to London and go to the 100 Club and stand in the back with my rather rural bad trousers and watch them going fucking nuts. It was amazing.
Was there one band back then that you were just completely blew your mind?
Well, they were not punk, but they were just post-punk, and I still adore everything they did. The Jam, Weller's got it. He had it. In fact, that in the city there's 1,000 men in uniform. I remember learning those chords, so that shows my age, where I was with him, and he's still out there doing it. Yeah. So the Jam.
There you go. Now you said you released an album not too long ago. Was it weird releasing an album in the type of situation we're in?
Well, I think you've got by now that I'm British and that I've got that dark humor. So, we have this gallows humor over here. And I don't mean any disrespect to anything that's going on in the world.
Right.
And if Kevin, God rest his soul, the Canadian boy I was telling about, my original guitarist, if he was here, he would say this now. This would be his line. He'd take a drag on his cigarette and he'd say, "Who'd wait 35 years to re-record a song called I Just Died in Your Arms and this?"
Yep.
It's the elephant in the room. And so, I apologize if that offends anybody, but hey, that's the title of the song. So no, it's a bit wacky. As the whole world is doing, we're all digging deep and doing our little, stay at home videos. I've quite enjoyed those. The human race is very inventive.
Yeah. No, absolutely. The human race will thrive and continue to make entertaining things for other people.
We're good at it. We are good at it.
Yeah. And then what was it like for you saying, you know what, I want to redo some of these songs, but I want to have an orchestral accompaniment. Was that just kind of, oh, I never thought I'd be at this place where I can actually have that done.
Yeah, good question. Well, of course, it's not the first or the last time anything like this has been done. I mean, I'm old enough to remember buying the Moody Blues with an orchestra.
Yeah.
And it was actually really good. Deep Purple with an orchestra, not quite so good. Procol Harum with an orchestra, really good. So we did it. We got offered it. You know, I didn't go searching for it. A record company, you know, amazingly came and offered the deal. For about 25, 30 years now, my mum and a million fans and even journalists and whatever have said, you know, one day Cutting Crew should make an album with an orchestra because your songs suit that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that my songs are any better or any worse than Human League or John Bon Jovi or whatever, but they do, and they did. The trick with Cutting Crew is that I write, hopefully, you know, beautiful melodies, and I sing them well, and Kevin would just sit across from me and write these motifs against them. So, for example, let's say it's Die in Your Arms, you know, I keep looking for something I can't get, and go, you know. So the orchestral arrangements were just obvious, whereas if it's a song that's just, you know, there's nothing much to play with.
Right.
We gave them a lot of juice.
And you know, it's amazing that, I mean, I just started listening to a lot of these classic songs, getting, you know, remixed like this, and I was born. I consider myself a '90s kid.
Yep.
But going through and, you know, whenever I'm doing nothing, I'll turn it on the radio station and listen to '80s music. And that's what I do just when I'm working or editing, whatever. And I was just, when I heard about this project, I was like, I was one of the people that was just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. The 80s was the last decade really where it was just before, I mean, you know, don't quote me or it's not exact, but just before groove and dance and urban music came in big, you know. And I was there at the beginning of the 90s, you know, when I think there were 85 bands on Virgin that got, you know, killed off in one night. Whether you were in the middle of an album or like us, just delivered an album, because Branson saw what was happening. You know, it was for in Britain anyway, Soul to Soul and Nana Cherry and these great new young colorful urban, I've learned that from America, but you know, dance music.
Yeah.
And us with our big guitars and our big hair, we were slightly ridiculous. So yeah, it was the times they were changing. They really were.
And as far as,
I don't remember the question actually.
honestly, I don't even think I asked a question. I don't know.
No, we're just chatting.
We're just chatting, but you know, and once again, you know, as a person who's been creating music for a long time, one of my favorite questions to ask, and I'm sure you could probably think of something. I love a good horror story, and I'm just wondering if you have a gig horror story.
Gig horror story. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I think this was pretty horrible for me. It was post Cutting Crew, but you know, I was going out as Nick of Cutting Crew. And have you heard of the band Marillion, British band?
No.
Not to worry. They're a very, very big cult band over here.
Okay.
So I was playing with them as their support act in Geneva, right by the lake, charity thing. And it was just Nick and his trusty guitar. And I thought, yeah, I'll go and have a 4-star hotel for 3 nights for a charity gig, as we do. And I walked, I did the sound check and everything. And I think that everybody in Geneva thought that the Marillion crew were my crew, and the Marillion crew thought that everybody in Geneva were my crew. So I walked on stage to about 10,000 people, and the microphone wasn't turned on and the guitar wasn't turned on. And there were no crew ever, anywhere. They'd all gone to have dinner. So I look, you know, that thing where you can imagine it in a film, you look to the left for somebody, just somebody to go, I'll turn that on, and that wasn't there. And you look to the right, and there was no. So I remember that one hurting me, but I wanted to share one more, and you can make it work however you want. The one that's a little dark, but it's so.
Hello?
You know, we were number one in the, you know, we were big pop stars at the time, and we did the gig, and we were absolutely knackered. You know, it was that sweaty southern humidity that I don't know anything about. I come from England, and we're knackered. We've done the gig, and afterwards the manager says, "There's a guy here. You know, he wants to do an interview. Do you mind?" And I'm like, "Oh, come on, we can hardly stand up." And they said, "Well, you know, he's visually impaired, and he wants to do it for some special website that he's got, or maybe not website, some radio station." So we were like, oh, okay, you know. So this beautiful man sat in front of us and asked us about 45 questions, and we did our bit, and we were so gracious and generous. And then he said, "Thank you, guys." And then he went, "Oh, sorry, I didn't press record. Can we do that again?"
Oh,
I swear to God, that's a true story.
That is my biggest fear of not recording.
Is it bringing up your demons now?
I've only told maybe one person this. I've only not recorded twice. And, you know, one time I said, you know what, could we reschedule? Yeah, no problem. The other interview or guest was an asshole. So I was like, I don't really care then. I don't, you know, oh, well, who cares?
Good riddance. Yeah.
Exactly. So I was just like, meh. But yeah, no, I like right now I'm staring at the recording.
I've spooked you.
No, it's something I do constantly, even before, like with every interview, I'm constantly recording. Okay, cool. Moving on. And then, you know, 30 seconds later, I'll check. But yeah, no,
well, the Arkansas guy was wonderful. And you know, Kevin, who could be a little bit like, I'm out of here. We both sat there and we did the same 25 questions again. We were nice British boys.
Now, did you give different answers, or were they the same?
Oh God, yeah. I bet Kevin did. Oh my God, he would. I mean, you're a beautiful man and stroke journalist, so you'll get this. When we were in Europe, we were top 5 in every country. So we would go around these little, you know, as you know, in Europe, you can do it all in 2 weeks. Every question was the same, and he was so cheeky, Kevin. He got a T-shirt with all the answers printed on. And we were in Italy, and this guy said, "So the cutting crew. So how you choose your name, a cutting crew?"
Yeah.
And Kevin would just pull his T-shirt open and point at the answer. This guy said, fuck you, cutting crew, fuck you."
That's genius. And I live by that philosophy of every question I've asked, you've probably already answered. So if somebody wants to know the answer, they can just Google it and pull up an interview. That's why I like the more just casual chatting.
I'm enjoying this a lot. Yeah,
I'm glad. For people at home though, who can keep up with everything that you're doing, pick up the new album, you know, or just, you know, follow you on social media. Where can they all do that?
Well, cuttingcrew.org is the website. Cuttingcrew.org, yeah, that's right. The album is, I can put you on the spot now, fucking journalist. Right. Ransomed, healed, restored, forgiven. Does that mean anything to you at all? That's the album title, folks, by the way.
Isn't that like a Bible verse?
Whoa. Yeah, close. Musical.
Mm.
Well, I'm going to give you 8 out of 10 for that.
Oh, thank you. I grew up Catholic, so that's why I have a guilty conscience. So yeah.
I grew up for about 16 years, Church of England, and Sunday school, we sing the hymns. That was the first music I ever heard.
Ah, okay.
Praise
okay.
my soul, the King of heaven, to his feet thy tribute bring. Ransomed, healed, restored, forgiven.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. So I thought, I didn't think anything back then, but, as I've told you, my wallpaper, I love titles. Titles is where I always start from. And that got written down about 2 or 3 years ago. And then when you make an album that you are, you're mucking around with people's memories. If my dad always used to say, leave well enough alone. So to start mucking around with big, a whopper song like Died in Your Arms,
yeah.
you got to be, it's daunting. And thank goodness, I think we pulled it off. But so that, the nervousness, they pay a little money for it. So I thought ransomed, healed, restored, and then hopefully by the fans forgiven.
No. There you go. It all work. It all goes together, really. So yeah.
I think titles. Do you like titles? I mean, have you written books, or have you, when you do your interview, when you talk about this interview, will you think of a witty title, or are they not important to you?
Okay, so for this podcast, I don't have to do titles. I just do the guest name. That's the title.
Yeah.
In previous podcasts that I've done, so much time would go into coming up with a title that was, in my view, clever and able to come across with what I'm trying to say, or if not, after watching it, then you get the title, just all that. As far as writing goes, I mean, I write short films, so like the first thing I think of is the title, and then I'm just like, okay, I can create a story from that.
There you go. There you go. Exactly me. And I have to say, I'll put on record that I Just Died in Your Arms. Let's deal with the biggie. 30% of the interest in that song, apart from whatever else it had, is the title, because there are really good titles out there. I'm not suggesting that's a brilliant one, but it's a good one, and there are some really bad ones. When I help young songwriters, they send me their lyrics, and then I look at the title and I think, my God, all the other titles you could have got from this song. You've chosen My Headphones or something.
Yeah, that's going to take over the nation. My Headphones.
Exactly. But so titles are good, titles are big, and it's the album is it was tough. It was really tough. I mean, the string arranger would send me the charts. Sounds very posh. He would send me the charts.
Yes.
And I'd look through them and go, what's this? I read music, but not very well. And I'd phone him up and I'd say, and he's beautiful. I mean, he's fantastic, and you'll see why in a minute. But I'd say to him, could the C sharp on the bassoon in bar 53, could that possibly drop down to an E? And he'd say, well, it's not a C sharp, is
it? Yes, that was a test, and you win. Yes.
Testing.
Yes.
But what he did was he said, look, Nick, we're not going to, just tell me, sing it what you think is right and all that stuff. But anyway, the point is, what he did do was say, look, not everybody I work with cares too much at this stage. They tend to start complaining later. Tell me what you'd like from these songs. And I said, I mean, if you and I went for a drive in my car now, you wouldn't be set to rock radio. It would be set to classical. I love classical music, and I know my composers. So we basically did a template for each song of a composer that fitted the song. So, for example, No Problem Child, which is the one that seems to be getting all the rave reviews from a unknown album, really. It's about my daughter, me singing to my teenage daughter, saying, no problem, child, you're a pain in the butt, but, I love you so much. And it was her growing up in rural England. So I said, Vaughan Williams. And he said, okay, there we go. There's a starting point. And then there's a song called Berlin in Winter, which is a song about the cutting crew playing in Berlin exactly 2 days. You couldn't make it up after the wall fell. And we were over there with a hit record in the charts, and 22 people turned up to the club because everybody's down at the wall.
Yeah.
Quite rightly. So we invited them all up onto stage, and we did about 6 songs with them all playing maracas and bongos. And then we called it a day, and we went down to the wall, and it joined in it. So that song is about that. Anyway, back to the point. So he said, what do you think? I said, Russian. So we have a little kind of Shostakovich nod of the head, or whatever the expression is. So I loved being involved in the front end of it.
And I was listening to it before again, and I thought it was real nice and real lovely, and it's a good we need a chill album. Pop that on and just kind of think about everything. Well, at least that's what I did anyway.
Thank you. No, it works. I'm very proud of it. It's not life changing, but for the fans, especially people who've been with us for 33 years now. You've got to respect that, when you're dealing with those. I've said this before, but I've Been in Love Before is just beautiful because what's happened is, and with Died in Your Arms and with all the others, we've honed those songs for 30 years. So in Been in Love Before, you get a key change at the end, and it's a real tingly moment. And to have an orchestra and also, Chris, to sing. Imagine sing. Put the headphones on and hear 80 people soaring away at this little old song that I wrote back in.
There we go. Nick, thank you so much for chatting with me. Anytime you want to come back and just shoot the shit, I would absolutely love to have you back.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure. Good time of the day for me here. It's white wine time of the day. So
There we go.
Thank you. Stay safe, and yes. I will be.
Good. Yeah, and you stay safe as well, all right?
I will. I've got 2 rescue greyhounds in the garden. I can see through my window. They're looking at me as if to say, why have you been sitting in that room for over 25 minutes and not giving us love? So to everybody over there, to everybody in the world, love you lots. It's pretty tricky times. We will come through this. It won't ever be the same, but I'll bring my orchestra out there one day.
There we go. And we'll be here. We'll be here waiting. We're not going anywhere.
No,
we'll be here.
Bye, Chris.
Thank you. Bye-bye.